69 Yankee, 7 November Golf, over. Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Negative Alpha Bravo. And this is 7 November Golf, Roger. Request you check your Romeo side. I'll go ahead and check my Tango side. 7 November Golf out. And 8 Claw, 7 November, say again. 7 November, go. I copied a while ago, 1 Charlie transmission that my thing used, and 8 5, this is 7 November, Charlie. 8 5 right now. Now 1 Charlie, 7 November, go.
This is 1 Charlie, reference to your last, you're Brandon 158, extra 5 o'clock, 1200 between teams and local. Also request your unit take ground records to see if we can try to get Whiskey 9 and 8 response to the playground.
And this is 7 November, Roger, stand by. Got it? Alright. And all units, this is 7 November Golf, my unit Alpha, Echo, X-ray Alpha in there. One Charlie, Alpha Bravo.
Yeah, I never took a dip.
Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Whiskey 9 Yankee, 7 November Golf, over. This is Whiskey 9, go. Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo.
Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap, the Civ Div, and Veterans Daily Live. Now, look, here's the deal. We pulled together now to put this live out to really address some major things going on, in addition to a lot of noise in the YouTube, Twitter, whatever space from all kinds of content creators, some of them actually downplaying what is going on, like it's not really that big of a deal, don't worry about it, which is, quite frankly, the wrong message to send, Clay. I heard and I saw several folks out there really downplaying what was going on, and I will tell you that that's the position that we as veterans have been in for way too long, not knowing what the hell's going on. Then we're hit with things. We go, oh, I wish I would have known. Well, now we're telling people what the hell's going on, and people are going, oh, it's fear mongering. Look, it's all true. These things are true that are happening. We have all of this DBQ, 1.1 million. It's not a made up number. They are using AI through a BI tool to scrub them all for fraud identifiers. There will be, Clay, collateral damage. Whether that's just slowing down the pipeline of regular claims going through, or people getting caught up in something that, we'll call it unintentional fraud. I had no clue. Somebody helped me, and now here I am. There's going to be a lot of things coming undone here. Another big piece, California throwing out that piece of legislation, essentially targeting claim shark companies in the state. Got signed into law by the governor there in California. Why does that matter if you're not in California? Well, guess what? Other states look at other states to see what they're able to do. Personally, it's a slippery slope, right? Not all for-profit or not all claims companies are cut from the same cloth. Some screw you over, charge you tons of money, and do things illegally where others don't. And we're going to shine a little bit of a light on what makes these claim companies different, including ours, right? Evidence-based VA claims, why we created it is really because I think, not more than subconsciously, we didn't really talk about it we did a little bit about how they screw people over, blah, blah, blah. They shouldn't be getting into your stuff. They shouldn't be filing claims for you. They shouldn't be filling out forms. They shouldn't be doing all these things. We've talked about it. You've talked about it a lot. And I think that, I know, it's not I think. I know that we created our company as an an option if you can't find a free accredited representative. And we are as close to that model minus any illegal aspects. And we sat down and intentionally made sure that we positioned ourselves that way. And Clay, with that, I'm going to kick it to you. I know I said a lot, from the California stuff to the DBQ stuff to other content creators to our business. So yeah, you have a lot of different ways you can go. So go whichever way you want from here, and then I'll just chime in.
Yeah, man, I'm going to try not to rant right now or sound like I'm crying like a little baby. But, you know, we've been doing YouTube for a minute. We have gotten, I think, collectively, probably over like 50 million comments. And that's not a joke number. It's probably more. I get about 10,000 comments every 28 days, which is just insane to think about. And comments have never really rubbed me the wrong way until recently. And now there are other creators making videos calling me out specifically. And I love how you put it, how it's like, hey, I watch a congressional hearing, the VA testifies about something, and I say, hey, here's what the VA testified about. They're going to go after fraudulent DBQs. It's probably going to be a low number. If you didn't commit fraud, you have nothing to worry about. And all of a sudden, I'm the fear monger, and I'm just like, I mean, am I making this up? Am I making up the VA's testimony to Congress? You know, and it kind of bothers me a little bit, but whatever. And I'll tell you this, for any creator out there who's yapping, and if you think I'm talking about you, I am. Come on live. You know, I'll do a live Q&A with anyone, especially if you're a creator. Won't bother me at all. Anyways, it's funny how the same thumbnails and titles and videos that we do, because we put it out first, by the way, we see the same videos done by everyone else a day or two later, and it's like,
right,
that Spider-Man meme where it's like they're pointing at each other.
Right.
Anyways,
Yeah.
I'm trying not to rant, but I've been doing this for over 3 years now, and it has gotten under my skin. So congrats to everyone. Anyways, VA claim companies. All right. Let me start with, I think we should start with who, and see, here's this person here. Let me just pull this up. Prime example, right? With this stupid Mario profile picture. Anyways, let me put it this way. How did we decide to create evidence-based VA claims? And I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off, Jason. I hope you're on board with what I'm about to say. We are partners, so we'll figure out. Jason and I have our own YouTube channels. You know, way back when we were just small creators, just like everyone else. And we decided, I got to hide the comments. I can't think straight. We decided that, hey, you know what? There's a claim company called VETCOMM. Let's partner with them because they kind of fit this mold where they charge up front. They don't charge on a future basis. They don't use a Nexus Letter company. And for the most part, they're solid. And then we did partner with them. And for the most part, all of that was true. But then they started kind of wanting more and wanting more and wanting more. And that turned into logging on to, using credentials. They've since partnered with a Nexus Letter DBQ company. And that's recent. But then through that, Jason and I were like, you know what? There's no one that really mirrors up with our values on what we want in a company. Why don't we just make our own? And it sucked because there was a lot of work. I'm not going to lie to you. That 3 months, I was sweating. You can ask Jason. I took a long break from Veterans Daily. Like, I was sweating hard getting this company running and finding people who are trustworthy, training them. We were very, very blessed with a retired VA Raider to come on the team, and it was just awesome. Anyways, we broke from VETCOMM, and then it's like, okay, what ethical guardrails are we going to put up? And that's really what I wanted to start with here. Mm-hmm. So first, we will not touch a VA form, 526EZ, 0995, 0996, log on to va.gov, not happening. And we lose business because of that. Veterans will say, hey, why don't you submit my claim for me? I'm like, no, you're an idiot. Don't even suggest that. In fact, since you suggested it, we're not going to recommend you. Go party with someone else. So that's one of our guardrails there. Another one is we do not send people to get Nexus Letters or DBQs. Now, this is key here, and I want people to understand it. While the CivDiv, Veterans Info Tap, and Veterans Daily, we have affiliate partnerships with American Medical Experts. We do recommend that if you need one, and it's mainly for appeals and difficult secondaries, and that's another topic, use American Medical Experts, right? The free consultation. If you go through evidence-based VA claims, I'm going to share my screen right here. I should have had this ready. I totally did
all right.
not.
Let me say something real quick on the
Go
evidence-based VA claims thing, or on the American Medical Experts. So on American Medical Experts, by the way, once all this stuff was going down with the VA really digging in deep and going to do this fraud tool, I personally reached out to American Medical Experts, talked with them, made sure that they understood that this was happening, and did they have any concerns? And you know what they said? We have zero concerns. Zero concerns because, and this is important, because we treat each individual as its own case, and we write each DBQ or Nexus letter on the evidence that we have presented to us from that individual, period. They're unique, unlike these other places that have people on the payroll to copy and paste. All right, so back to you.
Yeah, no, that's solid. So here's our contract. All right. I understand there's VSOs. I understand there's claim agents. We're not accredited. We don't fill out forms. I'm going to read this out. This one here. I understand that evidence-based VA disability claims will not recommend another company to provide Nexus letters, independent medical opinions, or disability benefit questionnaires. The reason that is in there, okay, which, by the way, we lose a lot of business. And when I say business, I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's not a fake number, okay? We lose a ton of business over that one sticking point. And the reason it's there is because it's my personal belief. If you take a claim company and you take a Nexus letter company and you put those in the same bed, you're asking to get punched in the face, right? Because the incentive for everyone involved, it's, when money's involved,
compounds.
Things get overlooked, right? That's my opinion. And so we have these very, very strict guardrails of we don't log in va.gov, we don't do VA forms, we don't do Nexus letters or DBQs. We have 100% money back guarantee, right? In fact, when we give someone their money back, we lose about $100 because of transaction fees, right? So, this is how we set our company up, and we lose a ton of business on it. And that is a loss that I am willing to accept, that Jason is willing to accept, because when they go after claim companies, it's like, bring it.
Right.
Bring it right on, okay? Because we're completely in the clear, because we don't help veterans submit claims. What we do is we help you understand how to submit your own claim and what evidence you need. Okay, that's my rant. I'm going to stop it there and, probably just mute myself and breathe a little bit.
I love it. So everything you said, spot on. I think that one of the big takeaways from all of that is the fact that we are not, quote unquote, a claim company. We are an education organization helping to educate you specifically on your nuances of your VA disability compensation claim. Now, we have me. I'm a former accredited veteran service officer, ran a team of accredited reps, highly involved with the VA, obviously, and the state level Department of Veterans Affairs, and did all that. We have a retired rater on the team. We have a solid team that is there. Like, this is how I think about it. Veteran A is out there wandering around trying to figure out how they should file their claim? What should they file for? How they need somebody to talk to. They can't find a free accredited resource that is capable, competent, and knowledgeable. One of my subscribers threw out there, add knowledgeable in there. They just can't find it. A lot of you can, and that's good. And we encourage you. That's the funny thing, Clay. One, we encourage people to go find the free resource if they can find it. Two, we say, look, we're only going to do this stuff. We're going to educate you on what it looks like to file an appropriate claim, what your situation looks like, and help you with your own discovery, being that person or that entity to talk with specific about your situation. And if you don't like the way that we have it set up, that's okay. We'll let you, we're not in this for the quote unquote money, right? We're not trying to see how, get rich. This is not that. This is absolutely the opposite. In fact, it is definitely a labor of love, especially for Clay. We really, really did not want people to go to these pay 5-6 times the amount. And quite frankly, Clay, I think initially my feeling on that was I just don't want people getting ripped off dollar-wise. Mm-hmm. I really wasn't hyper-focused on the fraud aspect of it or the potential of fraud or the fact that they would log into their stuff. I'm like, you know what? They're wrong. That company might get screwed over down the road. And I really didn't think of it that much then. A little bit. It was kind of secondary thought. First was I don't want somebody paying 5-6 times the amount of their pay.
Yeah, that's like $10,000. Like that's not chump change, It's
huge. And look, if people look, I get it. It's not fun to say, hey, look, I went to a claims company that charged me $17,000, right? But I see those comments, and it's not fun to admit that you did that. And on the same token, you had no resources, right? Where we're at today, and I'm blaming the claim shark companies, right? This is not what we are. Okay, we are not a claim shark company. We don't do anything like that. So I'm blaming the claim shark companies, but why? Why? Because the government, quite frankly, failed veterans. That's the root cause of this for those that really want to figure it out. And if you want to write a shitty letter, excuse my language, to your congressional member,
don't use bad words, yeah.
Right? If you want to reach out to your congressional member and let them know how you feel, right? The government has failed veterans when it comes to free, accredited, capable, competent, and knowledgeable resources. And I come from that world. I saw it with my own eyes. I saw it from county to county to county to county to state to state to state. Some were better, some were way worse. And this is what happens when they get reactive because they don't have the money to actually help people. Then all of a sudden they're just order takers. You come in, veteran A says my back hurts, right? Veteran A gets to file a claim, lower back issue. That's their claim. Veteran B has a back problem, comes to us, and we're talking about back, we're talking about radiculopathy, we're talking about arthritis, we're talking about the sleeplessness causing anxiety and depression, and we're creating a real tangible claim. And so that's the difference that you get because they're so reactive, and it's sad because they're really literally pushing veterans into harm's way. And now here we are. There's going to be a lot, Clay, of collateral damage from beyond the fact of this DBQ is bad. Okay, human looked at it. Yes, it's bad. Mm-hmm. Company X did this. Okay, veteran X did this. Okay, let's send out the letters to these people and figure it out. There's way more to this, and there's way more moving pieces, I think, than people are giving this credit to. And I'm going to say one more thing. And I'm going to kick it back to you because this is just going to irritate you again. So sorry. And so this is why it makes me mad and irritated and upset when you have people downplaying any of this. They're like, it might not even happen. They didn't give a hard date, and it's IT stuff and it's probably not even going to work and, blah, blah, blah. And it's not a big deal. And, there's only be like 3 people that are involved. Who cares? Well, first of all, I care about the 3 people too, especially if it's unintentional fraud. I don't really care about the people that did it knowingly, right? So let's get that part straight. It's the people who unknowingly submitted something or had a company submit for them thinking they're helping me and they're helping me legally. Those people are screwed. And then anybody who did their own on them for themselves, printed it out, took it to their doctor did it, but the doctor made it look funky somehow. And now it gets flagged. And now they got all this stress and anxiety. There's so many other things, Clay. But before that, I'm going to kick it back to you because I'm still irritated that people are downplaying what's happening.
Yeah, no, the downplaying thing is definitely a topic that I want to talk about. But first, something I realized, I want to say it was last week. I was talking to Raider HQ, who's also in the chat. Great channel, by the way. If you don't follow him, you should. Man, what was it? Oh, VFW. Okay, so the VFW, lifetime member, by the way. I've been to their national conventions. I've had higher up VFW people in my basement right here. So I'm a big fan of the VFW, and they are the champions of really this anti-claim shark. You know, they created the term claim shark and gave it a definition and everything. And so you have the VFW there championing the GUARD Act, the anti-claim shark, everything all the way back. I mean, it was kind of during COVID, maybe before, but really after COVID, after PACT Act, you saw the VFW just go all in on claim shark stuff. Here's what I realized last week, because that has been, 3-4 years ago now. Here's what I realized, and this is what bothers me, is that, okay, the VFW's anti-claim shark, got it. What have they done to make their service officers better?
Right.
And I mean that.
Yeah.
Now, I know the answer. It's nothing.
Right.
It's absolutely nothing. What the VSO community, and now I'm talking about all of them, what they have done is point fingers and say, no claim shark, you suck, this, you. But occasionally I want to talk about me, country song.
Right.
Anyways, that's an older country song. But they fail to realize that they are the root cause. Now, we can talk about funding, and I know you're passionate about that, on the lack of dollars for county service officers. But that's not for veteran service organizations. In fact, the American Legion, I want to say in 24, recently, within the last few years, they spent $33 million on postage, on mail. Okay. Now there's not a single person on here that can convince me that one, they should be spending that much mail. But I get it. It's an older audience within the VSO community. Got it. Mails and they read the newspaper. People my age, I don't think I've ever held a newspaper, to be honest with you. Don't make fun of me. But $33 million. And then you're like, wow, I wonder how much money they've spent to training, not just new service officers, but training the current ones that they have, because the current ones they have are absolute dog water.
Right.
I would trust some random person on Facebook and TikTok than I would an American Legion service officer. And I mean that. I'm not saying that lightly. I mean it. And so that is a huge, I think VSOs have really, as a whole, really dropped the ball on putting the veteran first. They're really good at doing, community organizations and social, stuff. Great. Do it. Don't forget about your VBA arm, your VBMS access. And whenever veterans don't use you and you want to yap about it. Right.
Look in the mirror.
Yap, but not make any, nothing changes if nothing changes. And so it's a very complicated, multi-layered thing.
I agree.
I don't think it's the VA's fault. I think it's the government's fault.
Yes.
With funding VSOs
From the government perspective, for your accredited representatives that actually work for the government, like your state government employees that are accredited, your county government folks, then you have all of your chartered VSOs, your organizations, your DAV, American Legion, and all that stuff. And I agree with you 1,000%. Like everything, there's going to be, I'd almost say it's the 80-20 rule again. I mean, it's a real thing. 20% are probably solid. The other 80%, not so much. I will say this, that what you will see in the veteran service organization world is a lot of volunteerism. And almost to the point, Clay, of back in the day of voluntold-isms, right?
Yeah.
Hey, our post needs somebody to be the designated claims expert. Who wants to do it? Crickets.
Yeah,
We need
Jim's already running bingo on Thursday nights.
Right.
He can't do it. We need someone else.
Well, his auxiliary wife,
Yeah.
his auxiliary member wife, used to be an accountant. She understands numbers and stuff, so she'd probably be the best person to do that. So let's just tag she's it. And the heart may be in the right place. And it might be great for somebody with a simple claim. You can do a couple searches, you can figure it out. That's awesome. However, the other 95% of veterans with their claims, or heaven forbid, it's a surviving spouse trying to come in and run a DIC claim, they're going to be hit with denials. And the problem is also that these volunteerism ones, typically at the local charter, whatever you want to call it, your local branch or whatever you want to call it, is not accredited. It's just tag, you're the person to talk to, and then they'll find you another person to talk to, hopefully. Then it's like you go one more layer out, and you might have some folks that are state kind of representatives. They kind of represent the state for the organization, and most of them might be accredited. I knew a guy who was accredited by, I can't remember now, I think it might have been DAV. And he worked full-time for DAV as a claims rep, full-time, seeing vets. I mean, in a weird way, he was my competition, not me specifically, but like, against my reps, right? On are they going to him or are they coming to us? And which was great because people were getting seen by somebody, and that was good. But here's the funny thing. Although he was accredited, he did not have VBMS access. So DAV never sent him to the VA to go through the process of getting his PIV card, which is like a CAC card with a little, computer chip in it, so you can remote desktop into the VA system. And that was at the detriment of the people he served. So anytime he had to look into something, he had to call like his boss's boss who had access, and then go through that whole situation. So all that to say is that I agree with you that there is definitely some issues on the free services aspect of it all. So let's talk for a second, Clay, about some collateral damage from this 1.1 million. And oh, by the way, just so folks can understand, last year alone, the top three, we'll call it claim shark companies, right? The ones that charge 5-6 times, blah, blah, blah. Of the top three, there were about 100,000 veterans that were served by these top three claim shark companies. So if that's 100,000 this year and you're going back to 2010, well, that's a lot of DBQs. I'm just saying. So don't think that this is a fake number. I mean, this is probably right in line, to be honest with you. Now, here's what I worry about. So not only do we have to think about the going backwards piece, right? So the going backwards piece, here's all these DBQs. They're all in a repository. We're scanning all those. We're going to figure it out. Well, now for anybody new that's filing a claim today, this is happening. Because they're not just going to be like, we're just doing these ones and then we're not ever going to do this again. Mm-hmm. No, this is the new status. This is the new benchmark. They're going to be scrubbed by this tool, which is fine. Again, if you're not committing fraud, you're golden, but still you don't want to give any indicators either. So this is my first collateral damage question for you, Clay, or I want to get your comments on it. So the way that this is supposed to work is they're supposed to scrub these things, and there's probably going to be designated people that have to review the results, right? It's more than one person, but it's less than, thousands of people. So Tag, you're going to be the DBQ reviewer on anything that's flagged by this BI system. Okay, cool. That sucks. Thanks. Right. So that's think you're the employee for a second. All of a sudden, wow, this sucks. Now I got to be that guy or gal. Now it does its thing and you get dumped. I don't know how many. I don't know what the threshold is. You get dumped 1,000 DBQs that you have to now decide whether or not the AI system was right, the BI system. And this goes back to something that you talk about before, Clay. Sometimes the easy button is just put them in for another CMP, put them in for a CMP, put them in for a CMP. So yes, it's fraud. Yes, I agree with the AI system. There's no recourse to that, right? Hey, I'm not some fraud expert, right? From me, layman terms, I'm going to say, yes, I agree with AI. Easy button, no recourse, no, why'd you make that decision? But if you said, no, I don't see fraud here, I think the AI system's wrong, well, now you have the position to be in, well, why did you say that it wasn't fraud? Because that's questionable now. So I'm wondering what sort of safety nets are going to be there for this idea, because we already know, Clay, the KPIs that are set out to employees at VA aren't really conducive to the behavior you want. So now what we have is we're going to have potentially, I'm making this up, hey, you have to knock out whatever, 30 DBQs a day. Okay, yes, fraud, yes, fraud, yes, fraud, yes, fraud, cool, right? So that's one of the collateral damage things that I think that we could potentially see, a claim that gets flagged, a DBQ that gets flagged, that's not necessarily fraud, that isn't fraud, that then goes in front of a live person and the live person just says yes because that's the easy button. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I have a lot of thoughts. So first, the Power BI, I'm just going to call it BI from here on out. The BI tool is going to be used to look in the past, right? It's going to look at large amounts of data and do its thing fairly easily. Like someone in their basement could create a Power BI tool roughly, it's not that hard. Now, since we're talking about the federal government, they're going to put a few million into it and make it really hard. Anyways, that's a different thing. So after that happens, once they figure out more common indicators, so we have the VA OIG report from 24. If you know what I'm talking about, there's many indicators. 6 is what we normally talk about. It's going to be scrubbing that. I think that will be a huge sample size to be like, you know what? Let's give some guidance to the VA, to the VBA now. So the VA OIG will start making recommendations and guidance, and then the VBA is going to interpret those recommendations and guidance. And what that's a claims processor or VA rater isn't going to deem it fraud, right? They don't have that judicial kind of authority, but they will say inauthentic. They'll say insufficient. It's probably going to be more common of insufficiency.
Good word.
And so, right, because we're talking like fraud. There's a legal meaning with that, and so it's hey, deemed insufficient. Why is it deemed insufficient? For various reasons, but I think that will be interpreted from this new VA OIG guidance that I'm assuming is going to come from the BI tool, right? Or that whole DBQ fraud issue. And so what do I think is going to happen in reality? I think a veteran's power tool of submitting a DBQ with their claim, I'm not going to say it's out the window, but man, you better have a dang good reason for submitting a DBQ, right? From a private provider that's not your primary or referred care. So I'm talking about a company who is legit, like a standalone company like American Medical Experts, who I would recommend, who we would recommend, or a company who is in bed with a claim company, right? A Nexus Letter DBQ company. I think both of those are going to take a hit regardless of the validity of their business practices whatsoever. And so in the same vein of people are going to stop claiming sleep apnea secondary because it's going to push out a 0 or 10%. We're going to see claims go down. Right. I think we're going to see DBQs go down. That's my personal, Here's what I think is going to happen. I think it's an educated guess. But what that means for the veteran is who you have to rely on. It's C&P examiners, right? And what it does, in my opinion, is it places the veteran between a rock and a hard place, where now the biggest variable is the C&P examiner, who, by the way, from what a private DBQ company is, that's exactly what a C&P exam is, right? It's just contracted by the VA. They're not your primary care. They've never seen you before. They don't even know your name. You're lucky if, I know we have some C&P examiners in the chat. I love you. Not all of you, though. You're lucky if they even review your records before you get there. But then in the same vein, if they review your records before you get there, they could even have some preconceived notions of what benefit of their own opinion, right? Ooh, I already know I'm going to write a negative nexus. And so now it's like, do I even want you to read my records before I get there? You're in this weird spot. And what it does is it takes control away from the veteran and it gives it to the federal government. And I said it that way because, taxation is theft and independent and libertarian is the way to go. But anyways, that's what it does. It takes power away from the veteran. Now, let me say one last thing and I'll kick it back to you. If that's the case, in which I do think that's the most plausible or most probable case, if that's the case, what I would rather the VA do is just strip public-facing DBQs off altogether.
Yeah.
If we can't use them, don't give them to us. Just take them out. Now we know under the Biden administration, I believe it was Christmas Eve. It was Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, right around that holiday.
Yeah.
Where the Biden administration signed into law, not just passed or introduced, signed into law, the VA secretary, by their own discretion, nothing else, they can delete public-facing DBQs off of the VA's website. And once that happens, that's it. Like if the VA receives a public-facing DBQ, immediately they were like, insufficient, right? I would rather the VA just make a hard line decision instead of putting veterans in this gray area, because if they did that, all of a sudden, these claim companies who are in bed with DBQ companies, gone. Like gone. Like that is gone, right? And it does harm veterans. Yes, I do agree with that. But I also think playing in the gray area where a veteran would pay for a DBQ, but then attend a C&P exam anyways, you might as well not have paid for the DBQ in the first place.
I agree. Because if you're paying for the DBQ, you shouldn't have to go to the C&P exam, honestly, because
it's the same thing.
I get it. So I do disagree with you on the elimination of DBQs really causing any sort of real issue. And the reason why is because it's a blank form. The DBQ itself is nothing. It's a form. All it is a format to really articulate the severity of your situation as it correlates to the rating schedule, right? So it's the same. If you said the same things that you would say in a DBQ, but you just put it on a doctor's letterhead and just wrote it all out, suffering from migraines from this time to that time, blah, 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 impact to earning capabilities and all these different things that would warrant, let's say, a 50% rating, it's as good as a DBQ. It's a doctor's letter that is stating the severity of your condition directly as it relates to the rating schedule. And that's really where the power is. That's where the rubber meets the road, is the verbiage in the rating schedule, not a blank DBQ. Doesn't mean anything. It's just a tool to get them the information in some sort of a structured way. So that way the VA, whoever's looking at it, doesn't need to flip through 1,000 pages trying to figure out your severity. And this is where people go wrong when they're filling out DBQs or taking them to their doctor and having the doctor, complete a DBQ, who is not a professional in VA benefits, is they don't know anything about the rating schedule. So they're just putting in whatever they're putting in about your condition in the DBQ, but not necessarily as it relates to the rating schedule, which then could leave the VA in a position of, well, I don't have all the information I need in this DBQ because it was filled out by some doctor who doesn't know anything about VA. And yes, it's completed, but I don't know what rating to give because they didn't give me what I really needed to cross-reference to the rating schedule. So therefore, I'm now forced to order a C&P exam. Now, if you go to like American Medical Experts, again, for example, and look, at no time, and this is just a disclaimer, if you will, we never say you have to use anybody. We just know them. We know they do good work. We know that they're solid. Get a free consultation and make an informed decision. That's it. So utilizing an organization like American Medical Experts, well, we know that they understand the VA claims process and the rating schedule for your specific condition. And so they're going to ask you specific questions to really dial in your severity as it relates, again, to the rating schedule so they can embed that into the DBQ. Take DBQs away. Cool. I'm just going to write it. I'm going to create my own form. I'm going to create my own form that knocks out these things for the rating schedule, and I will still be in business as a severity rating organization, not a DBQ company, but I'll rate your severity. What I think the appropriate move for the VA would be, and you've mentioned this before, Clay, as well, and I'm 1,000% on the same page. I think the appropriate move is the VA should be required to complete any DBQ for any claimed condition by any veteran. What that means is the veteran could not be signed. I got out 7 years ago. I have zero relationship with the VA. I don't even qualify for healthcare with the VA at this point. But I'm going to file a claim for these 6 conditions. And I should be able to walk into the VA, show them my DD-214 that I'm honorably discharged or whatever, that I can file my claim, and that here's my claimed conditions, and they should have to do my DBQs for me. They should be required to. I think that that's the appropriate move. If you want to control the information received, there you go, right? So that's my take on that. Back to you.
Yeah, and it even goes, I think that would be a big step for the VHA to do. I think the easiest step is those who do have a primary care, who are seen, who have a referred care. Why is it? So let me just tell you who my referred care people are. I have a primary care, Dr. B at the VA, DC. She's awesome. All right. I have a neurologist who is probably my favorite VHA person I've ever talked to. There's a mental health person I kind of speak to, but we don't get along because they're the enemy in my mind.
They keep asking me dumb questions. Yeah.
and there's revisiting trauma. It's not a good time. And then a dermatologist, right? So if I claimed a skin condition, I should be able to go to my derm, who I see, I get prescription medication from, and say, hey, I need you to complete this DBQ, which, oh, by the way, is a VA. It says VA form, number, whatever, DBQ. And the answer I'll get is, no, it's a conflict of interest, right? Or I don't have time. And it's like, you are my own, you are my only source of healthcare. This DBQ form is supposed to be completed by those who see me. It's you. Not only are you the VA, but you are you treat me. What do you mean you're not going to fill it out?
It's so dumb.
And so now it's like, all of a sudden you start seeing, oh, I understand how these claim companies who charge 4, 5, 6 times the increase, I see how they have a business. And let me just be clear here. While we both disagree with, a lot, the future increases, the 4, 5, 6 times increases, doing your claim for you, C&P exam prep, we disagree with all of that. Let me tell you this. If they didn't have results, they wouldn't be bringing in millions every year. Okay, every year. And so you can yap. We have yapped about them a lot, but they get results, right? And so we've created evidence-based VA claims where we also get results. You can see them. I mean, they're clear as day. I post them all the time at a lower charge, right? And so you can yap all day about Claim Shark this and Claim Shark that, but you have to understand how veterans got to where they're at, right? The most common veteran that reaches out to us, which, by the way, I answer every email. There's a whole process through the chain. I eventually answer all of them, and I review every email. The most common veteran, here's what it looks like for people who reach out to us. They went to a VSO and had a poor experience, whether they used them before and the VSO said, hey, you should be happy with what you got. You're at 60% or whatever, or they just simply had a terrible experience that will vary. And they're like, hey, I'm done. I want to try a different avenue. That's the number one person who comes to our company. Okay. I would assume it's the same, if not very, very similar to all the other companies. Right. And so now it's like, well, what do you tell the 66-year-old veteran who tried a VSO? It didn't work out. They're upset with the VA. Their VHA provider won't complete DBQs. What do you tell that person? Oh, don't use a Claim Shark. Just go see Miss May down at the VFW. You'll have to get through your lung cancer because all they do is smoke and drink in there. But if you can get through that, man, you can submit your claim. That's what you're going to tell them, right? And so for anyone who's like down or who's just like, I would say, slapping claim companies, I would argue that they sound exactly like the VFW, where it's all y'all's problem. We're perfect. Our VSOs are perfect. It's like, well, the 2 encounters I had with the VSO from various organizations both sucked. So,
right.
Yeah.
It's definitely not the same. I mean, throughout the nation, and there has to be something there for those that don't have that access. And that's why we ended up doing this. I got 2 things because I know that we're running a little short on time. So one is, I just want to throw out that, and then I have a conspiracy theory for you because I know
I love a good one.
I know you do. So here's the first real piece, though. And I just want your quick thoughts on this, then I'll get to the conspiracy theory thing. So I believe that this is the VA's effort to target these companies specifically. They didn't see a path through other legislative ways. So they're looking at this as a path to find, this company did 400 of the exact same DBQ, that type of stuff, and then go after them that way and get them for like going after Al Capone for taxes, right? That type of thing. Mm-hmm. So what are your quick thoughts on that? Then I got the conspiracy theory for you.
Yeah, I totally agree. The Congress removed VA's ability to go after criminals between the VBA stuff way back, like over 20 years ago. All these companies emerged, and they can't do anything about it. That's it. Like they can't do anything about it. Now the VA OIG can investigate fraud. They can indict, and then the state attorney general, the AG can indict. Sorry, and then the VA OIG will likely testify at the trial. And then if that veteran / claim company / DBQ company is convicted, you're going to prison.
Right.
Now, I don't know who will go to prison in that group. That is for the courts to decide.
Right.
But someone is going to prison. I do know.
Right. And if it's a veteran that's working with one of these companies and unbeknownst to them, there was fraud that happened and this person did 70,000 DBQs like that, the veteran will probably be safe. Now, safe from anything major, except for if your claim is done fraudulently, they might reduce you. So that piece would be severed, right? So then you got to come back and do it. So a quick note on that is if you think, hey, I did this, I went through companies, I got DB, they did that, they mailed it off for me, I don't even know, I didn't even read it. It might just be smart. I'm just saying, if you haven't been to the VA for your specific condition, probably start going, and documenting the severity of your situation, just to start getting it on paper if you haven't done it anything like within the last year, right? Just a reminder. Don't just take a bunch of Motrin at home and lay around thinking that you'll just deal with it. Go get it documented. All right. So here's the conspiracy theory piece.
Okay.
All right. So the VA, the government, including the VA, right? Whatever. All the puppet masters out there want to reduce spending. They look at the VA and they go, my God, it's a ton of spending. It's a ton of money. And it doesn't look like it's coming down anytime soon because the percentage is going up on people that are filing and their claims are getting bigger and bigger. Hey, I got an idea. There's all these different protections and we need to get around all of this. A lot of these claims have been around for more than 5 years. It makes it harder to unravel what's already in place. The 5-year, 10-year, people that are 55 years or older, the 20-year, all these different rules. And we're not going to get Congress to change any of that stuff. So what's our one workaround? Well, if there was fraud involved, well, then you could sever stuff and reduce your payments. Okay. Well, how do we do that? Well, start just looking at all the evidence and start flagging stuff for fraud and see if there's anything that sticks. Okay. Well, with AI, we can do that real quick. All right. Well, let's do that. So could this be an effort to not just find fraud, but to really just even sadly pull people in that didn't create fraud and label them as fraud, have an uphill battle because they know veterans don't treat themselves very good. A lot of vets don't follow up with treatment. They don't document their stuff and they just kind of limp around, right? If they get labeled as fraud and, hey, prove it. Oh, well, I can't. I didn't really document much. Could this be a way to eliminate some debt? Well,
yeah. So I do love me a good conspiracy theory, but I am team no on this one.
Okay.
There's a few reasons. One, the VA will not throw the word, like we're using fraud very loosely here. The VA will not throw fraud, an accusation like that unless they're sure, right? And so if they investigate, you're not going to know.
Right.
You're not going to know until that indictment hits you. Someone's going to serve you papers.
Right.
Literal papers and say, hey, what's your name? And once you confirm your name, you're served.
You've been served, right?
But when they investigate you, you're not going to know. And I think that investigation is going to be thorough. The federal government will not accuse someone of fraud unless they think they can win the case. You can just look at win rates between federal governments. You're basically, if you get indicted by the feds, you're done. You're almost done. Like it's like 98% win rate or something like that.
Right.
To include plea deal stuff. And it's not good at all. So if you're investigated, you're not going to know. And I will say this, if you didn't commit fraud, I want to say this clearly. If you did not commit fraud, you ain't got nothing to worry about. That's it.
Right.
So even if you use a claim company, if you use their DBQ company and they did a mental health evaluation, you got 70%, but you have, I'm going to say SI so we don't get flagged by YouTube here. You can't maintain effective relationships. Your evidence is backed up. We are not talking about you. That's not who we're talking about. We're talking about people who are like, man, is that me? That's probably, if you think we're talking about you, then we probably are, right? If you refuse your CMP exam, if you know.
And that's a big one, right? Clay, explain how that happens. So just so you could say it, explain how the claim gets submitted, the evidence is reviewed, and then you submitted a DBQ from wherever, and they're looking at all your evidence. They looked at your DBQ, and then now they say that you should get. Why do they say you need? Why should they say that you need a CMP exam? First of all, why would they say?
Yeah. Why do they? It's my opinion. They're rubber stamping everything.
Yeah. But pretend that's not the case.
That's the real answer. But there's another answer where it's like, man, this is, this DBQ is insufficient for whatever reason. And then the veteran is getting advised by people who I would not listen to, say, ref 38 CFR, blah, 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 blah. My fully developed claim is sufficient. I've submitted all the evidence for service connection criteria, whatever statement they give you. You can absolutely technically submit that and not go to your exam. And a lot of veterans are service connected on that basis. There's a YouTuber who I will not name, but I want to so bad, but it wouldn't be a good look, who recommends veterans not to attend their CMP exam. And they will say, reference this code and blah, 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 blah. I'm telling you, that's bad, right? And so if I'm
as a former VSO, I agree.
If I'm investigating, right, like the Power BI tool does its thing, there's a human input, and I look at this case, and I see a private DBQ that's a little weird, and it happens to be similar to a lot of other DBQs I'm looking at, and the veteran didn't do a CMP exam. If I had a pile of no, yes, that's going in the yep. Right. That's the next step, right? I'm not saying they committed fraud,
right?
But what I'm saying is, once you start tacking on these indications, if it walks like a duck, if it talks like a duck, hot dog, that's a duck. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, if that is you, I think your advice is solid. If you are worried for whatever reason, go seek healthcare. Right.
Yes.
So even if you fall into, I didn't attend my CMP exam, you better have some dang evidence behind you. Right. And there's a billion situations that this stems from. Anyways, I don't think the VA, to answer your big question, is the VA using this for budgetary reasons? I don't think that's the case whatsoever. I do think the reduction or the compensation impact of ratings like sleep apnea to zero. The compensation law. That I do think is a conspiracy theory for budgetary concerns, but I don't think this is. I could be wrong.
So how about this? 1.1 million claims, right? Because if you look at each condition as its own claim, I'm claiming these three conditions, right? So 1.1 million DBQs being scrubbed. The numbers we don't know. Like, how many of those are going to result in, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Veteran, we need you to go do another CMP exam?
Oh, yeah. So the OIG report gives us numbers of projections back in 2024.
Oh, right.
And these are just projections, right? But
Did you just throw a pen or something?
No, it was my
okay. Got it.
Thing. It was about, I'm kind of going off memory here, but if I had to add it all together, of the 1.1 million, we're probably talking about 50,000 hit on the Power BI tool, and a very small percentage of that. It's going to be less than 1% of 1.1 million for sure. Yeah. And so, overall, I don't think it will have, oh my God.
So it's not going to drain the system.
Yeah, not at all. But I do think they're going to go after, what do you call it? Like when the police officer, you see a drug dealer, you really want the seller, the person who sells to the dealer, whatever that is called, right? You want someone.
Not my world.
The veterans down here, they if I'm investigating, I want to go for that big juice.
Yeah. The person that did 500 DBQs. Yeah. Not the individual that had one.
Yes, it is 4:30 Eastern.
All right. Sweet.
Do you have any last parting words? I got some last parting words, and then I'll push it to you, actually.
Okay, go.
Hey, for all you yappers out there talking about how we suck, I would look at yourself and ask, what have you done for the veteran community, right? Instead of yapping, why don't you go do something? Make a YouTube channel and share your knowledge with everyone else, because you're so knowledgeable, right? And for all you yappers who do have channels, who have called me out, come on the channel. We'll do a live Q&A. We will answer veterans' questions. And I can tell you this, when you answer something wrong, I will call you out. Anyways, that's all I got. I know it's a little abrasive, but Jason, I'll leave it to you.
That's all right. Yeah, I agree. And here's the thing is we either inform each other of what is happening and what's going on out there, or we don't. And if we don't, we're leaving people in the dark. And quite frankly, I don't care if it's 100 people that are impacted by this that shouldn't be impacted by this. I want them to be aware of what's happening, right? It's important. Not only that, it's also important as a deterrent against people that might be thinking of frauding the VA. Don't do it, right? So it's also a deterrent, which is also a good thing. The last thing I'm going to say, Clay, is sure we've talked about individual aspects with regard to the changes in the rating schedule and having that rating schedule flow out with DBQ, or not DBQ, with the sleep apnea and tinnitus and all of that stuff. So that stuff is actually happening. It's coming into effect. The VA has testified that that should go into effect by the end of this year, this fiscal year, which is the end of September. So it is happening. They gave us a date, the end of the year, fiscal year, for respiratory, auditory, mental health, and neurological. So those are the 4 rating schedules that are going to be done. If you need help, reach out to us. We're happy to help you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.